Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask a question, which I'll link here, and I'll just kind of paraphrase for you guys a little bit. And he wants to know, what he wants to know is when we talk about muscle growth limits of how much muscle you could gain per week, per month, per year when you reach a certain level of experience, what that muscle gain range is, because it's not a fixed number, it's a range. Is it impacted? Is it purely localized? Or is it through your whole body? And basically, he's asking which way will work. In short, he just wants to know what everyone else wants to know who doesn't care about their legs that much sometimes. Non-athletes, guys who just want to look good, naked, or in a tank top, or at the beach. They want to know, will their arms and chest grow faster if they train their legs or if they don't train their legs? So let's break that down. Let me get in my places in, do a little bit of my crafting, and let's see if we can come to a consensus there. Well, we need to cover all angles of this because there's a couple different points that people try to make or ideas they come up with when they ask this question, because there's some different lines of thought and people don't always know. All right, the first line of thought that comes up is the first question this gentleman asked. If you can only gain, say at this point in your training, 1 pound of muscle per month when you're at X amount of experience, say mid to late novice, because intermediates don't gain 1 pound of muscle a month. This doesn't happen. They're going to gain less than that. But you've been training 3 or 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. You're probably going to gain about 1 pound of muscle per month if you're doing everything pretty good. But he wants to know, is it going to be spread through the whole body? Is that the limit? Or can you pick and choose where that pound goes? Meaning, if you de-emphasize or don't train certain muscles, well, the other muscles grow more to accommodate because of the limit. Well, people need to understand that limit isn't like a limit that's just set as your body can grow this amount of muscle. That limit is set because of the total amount of muscle that your entire body is capable of growing based upon the size of your frame. All right, people need to put that in perspective. Someone who's taller with a longer, thicker frame is going to gain more muscle, have more muscle potential than someone who's smaller. Smaller diameter bone with a given number of muscle fibers around it, all those fibers are only going to be able to grow so fast per month. All right, and the bigger you get, the more muscle that muscle gains, the slower it's going to grow. It's harder and harder to make a bigger and bigger muscle grow, meaning it requires sometimes a heavier load, heavier weight, heavier tension, heavier metabolic fatigue to get growth in an already muscle that's already growing and getting bigger, that's already gotten somewhat big. And the bigger it gets, the harder that becomes because your body's resistant to thickening those muscle fibers. So think of it in this way. Your limit is not based upon the fact that your whole body's only going to gain so much amount of muscle. It's that every muscle fiber through your body is only capable of individually getting so much thicker. And the limit on the thickness of all the billions of individual fibers in your body is what you're going to get that number from. So in short, in fact, if you don't train half of your body, let's say you were capable of gaining about 1 pound per month at that point, and you just stop training half of your body. It could be your lower body, it could be your upper body, it could be the left half, the right half. If you want to do something crazy like you guys saw the lady in the water, where the guy just trained the right half of his body and not the left. And there was a massive difference. He was all swollen on the right side and looked like he didn't lift on the left. Now that doesn't really work that way, but it's funny for example. We'll use it for example. You're only going to gain half the muscle that you were capable of gaining. So it's not going to be that you'll gain that pound of muscle entirely on the right side or the bottom side or the top side. It's that since you only trained half the muscles in the body to get bigger, they're going to get bigger at the same rate they were going to be able to get bigger. So it's going to be maybe 1/2 pound instead of 1 pound, give or take a little bit. So no, it doesn't work that way. But the caveat being, because the other part of the body didn't get worked, it now has a reserve built up. It could become less developed than the other half. Meaning, let's say you only trained your upper body and didn't train your legs for the first 6 months you're in the gym. Your lower body is going to be capable, when you do start training it, of making new gains. Your upper body isn't. Your upper body's going to be getting up to that point. It's going to get to that point to where it's got 6 months. It's going to get into the late novice. It's going to be inching towards the intermediate. Your lifts and size are going to slow down accordingly. But your legs can make tremendous gains all of a sudden, just like as if you had just started out in the gym. because that's where they're at. Those individual muscle fibers is what it's about. So put that in perspective. A given muscle fiber can only get so much bigger at a given rate, and the bigger it gets, the harder it is to make it bigger. It's going to grow slower because it doesn't want to keep getting bigger. We have survival mechanisms in place in our body to slow those things down, because muscle makes you gain metabolism. Metabolism makes you starve to death in the wild when you can't get access to food during famines, ice ages, all that stuff our ancestors survived. We're designed to try to keep our metabolism in check. But, you know, through consistent food and consistent training and getting bigger and bigger, you can bypass that to some extent. But your body's always going to fight back a little bit because it doesn't want to starve. It's going to get scared of scarcity. But with consistent food, consistent training, you can get around that. But that's what it comes down to, is think about it in terms of each individual muscle fiber in your body is only going to get so big so fast. So it doesn't help there. Now, the other angle that people attack it at, of saying, well, you know, training all the big muscles in your body releases more testosterone. We know that working muscles, training muscles, lifting heavy, makes your body produce more testosterone and more HGH right after you train, right? That is a fact. Absolute fact. Their logic then, well, the bigger muscles obviously are going to have a higher potential for it. So if I go train those big muscles, my thighs, my glutes, those big ass muscles, it's going to release more of these hormones in my body. That's going to go through the whole body. It's going to make everything grow faster. It's a good myth. I like that myth because it teaches people that they need to squat and deadlift. They need to go do those heavy barbell movements. It's a fantastic myth because it gets people to do the things they really should be doing. But is it true? No, it's not true. I don't like to admit that this myth isn't true because it's a helpful myth. It's a really useful myth, but it's a lie. Do you know what all the data says? The last meta-analysis I saw in 2014, they looked at over 22 different studies and analyzed them, and you know what they found? That the amount of testosterone and growth hormone that was released post-training, because everyone produces it post-training, all right? Everyone produces a little bit of each after you work out. They all go up, even if you train really, really crappy. All right, you can train lazy and they still boost a little bit, okay? They're going to go up. What they found is that the amount that they went up didn't matter, meaning the amount that they went up had no correlation with the amount of muscle that people gained over several months. When they studied everyone's release afterwards, they found no correlation at all with the amount that you released and the amount of muscle that they gained. So that myth just simply isn't true. It would be awesome if it was true. I would love it if that myth was true, but it's a myth. So the take home here is that overall, those things don't matter. Now, what I would say is that if you have a lagging body part, because I think you should be training your whole body. You shouldn't really let any muscle in your body go untrained. It's not good for your overall performance. It's not good for your injury prevention. And it's not even good for your bone density. If you want strong, dense bones throughout your life, you need to have most of the muscles in your body somewhat developed. You can't be skipping muscles completely. You just can't. It's not a good idea for overall fitness. But that being said, if you have muscles that are a higher priority to you, you know, and I hate to say this because I'm helping the kids out who want the big arms and chest and don't care about their legs. All right, you need to train your legs anyways. I don't want you to think I'm telling you not to train your legs. But all of the training that you do does have a recovery drawback to it. Meaning there is some taxation on your whole system for recovery. So if you feel that you have a lagging body part, if you feel that your biceps are lagging a little bit and your pecs, and you want to do more pec and bicep training, but you find that when you train your pecs and your biceps 5 days a week, which is the kind of thing I'd recommend, if you really and truly have a lagging muscle that you feel is lagging so much that it needs extra attention, it's not about doing more volume for it in one workout. You need to train it more often. 5 days a week, maybe even 6 days a week, if your connective tissue can handle it. You need to watch those joints and connective tissue with frequency like that, and that's no joke. You'll snap your shit up if you're not careful. You need to pay attention and listen to your body. But if you feel that you're not recovering enough and you've been squatting 3 days a week and then you want to bench press or do weighted dips and curl 5 days a week and you find you're not able to recover all of a sudden, I would say you might need to cut your squatting back to 2 days a week, or maybe even 1 day a week. If your legs are overpowering your chest and your biceps and you feel that you need to balance those things out, would it be advisable to improve your overall recovery ability in your body so that you can push those weak muscles more frequently and with a little more workload by reducing the workload and the frequency slightly on the other muscles? Yeah. I might even recommend that instead of reducing the frequency, that you just cut down the volume. Maybe come in and do 1 set of squats on your 3 times a week, so that you're not beating your recovery ability up, so that your body can adapt and recover easier to the extra chest and bicep training. Do it for a short period of time. If that's what you need to get everything caught back up and balanced, that's a totally acceptable way to do it. That is the one way that it might actually be beneficial to try to handle this situation asked in the question. But again, I think in my personal opinion only, and you guys are free to do what you want. It's your body, it's your life. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. You're all grown men and women. But if you have a muscle balance like that, you feel the need to correct, and you just don't have the recovery ability to handle the extra workload, scale back the other big exercises. Scale them back, scale back the volume, scale back the workload, so that you have the extra recovery ability to get that lagging stuff caught back up. But as far as the other stuff goes, the other 2 that people are trying to ask about, those are just myths. They don't actually work. There's not actually truth to the idea. You're still going to be limited on how fast any muscle is going to grow, no matter what, because you're dealing with a total muscle fiber thickness issue, and it's going to be resistant to grow the bigger it gets. And the hormone release, honestly, it's been studied and studied and studied. It doesn't seem to actually matter. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.